Hi.
Hello,
Good evening.
hello.
Good evening. We're letting folks still trickle on in. Certainly don't feel like you have to have the camera on. Couple of housekeeping things. Certainly one, welcoming you all to our presentation about our mid students like yourself who are in Bucket Pathway or Banner. First thing, certainly, we always like to get a sense of who is in the room. So certainly feel free to put into the chat where you all are coming from. Um, a bit of our agenda this evening, we will go through our presentation. It will be a recording, and certainly encourage you all to take notes as on the way. We certainly want to encourage that you reserve your questions till the end. Certainly, the recording itself may provide some context or question answers to the question you already have. We certainly will have a Q&A session afterwards. We'll open the room for questions along that way. So again, just asking if you all could just hold your questions till the end. We'll certainly be here to provide assistance along the way once it's time for Q&A. And yeah, just putting it into the chat there, wherever you're coming from, place-wise. We know we have folks from all over the place, so certainly excited to have you all here. All right, still meeting a few folks here. We'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and get started soon. Folks coming in. So if you're just coming in, just letting you all know, what you certainly don't have to have a camera on. We will go through a brief introduction and we will provide a breakdown and recording of our presentation. So certainly want to be able to have you all view that. If you have any questions, certainly please hold that till the end. We want to make sure that perhaps sometimes the questions that are being asked may be answered in the presentation. That being said, certainly if there are additional questions you'll have after, we'll be available for Q&A. I'm glad to have you all here. Certainly glad to have you here. Yes. I can speak a bit louder. Thank you. Thank you for getting back to me on that feedback. All right. So we're looking at 6:02, about 55 folks in here. Got folks from all over the place. That's beautiful. All right. So we will go ahead and get started. We'll be mindful of everyone's time this evening. So just starting some introductions. Greetings, everybody. My name is CC. I serve as a financial aid advisor here at UW-Madison, and here to assist and support with, the from students here coming admitted, as well as along with my colleague here, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Joe. Super excited to be here. And we do have another person on our team, Jocelyn Diaz Valdez. She wasn't able to attend today, but is super excited to see you all in the fall.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started here, Marvel Joe. Again, folks, just take notes and questions, and then we will be able to assist at the end of the presentation. Check the audio on this
Info session. We are so excited that you were able to join us, where we will talk all things related to financial aid and you being part of Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner. Our learning objectives for today are the following. We're going to meet our team. We're going to talk about what is the difference between Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner. We're going to understand, hopefully, the cost of attendance and your financial aid offer. And some additional topics we will touch on: scholarships, loans, federal work studies, special circumstances, unusual circumstances, things that are coming up next, and then any questions you will have. We hope to leave plenty of time for that. Meet our team of financial aid advisors. Myself, Jocelyn Diaz Valdez, Molly Jo Bouch, and CC Bang are part of our Promise team that help answer any of your questions. But please know we also have a larger team that helps support any questions you have. So if you ever reach out, know that if we're not available, you can talk to any advisor on our team. They are ready and happy to help answer your questions. Also, fun fact about the three of us, all three of us attended UW-Madison at different times, and also have our undergraduate and graduate degrees from UW-Madison. We love this place. They haven't been able to get rid of us. Our peer advisors, students that are currently on campus, also help answer questions, support students, support the events that we host. JB, Zephyrin, and Maddie, three phenomenal students. We are thankful to have them as part of our team of peer advisors. We host monthly workshops every first Thursday of the month. Once the academic year has started, we host monthly workshops where not only do we talk about some really good topics such as how do I fund a study abroad experience, or how do I fund living off campus, or how do I fund I'm blanking, but there's a number of different things, such as, I think I already said graduate school, but along with providing the really good information, we also tend to provide pretty decent food. Hope your students can join us. Block their calendars. Lunchtime first Thursday of the month is one of the highlights of our program, I'd say. Fall orientation is also a mandatory session that we host for all incoming first year Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner students. This will be Thursday, August 27th in the Memorial Union at Shannon Hall. So I encourage you to make sure you block your calendars, save that date during for the mandatory fall orientation. It is the only mandatory session that we host. So what is Bucky's Pell Pathway? What is Banner? These programs are unique to UW-Madison and are intended to assist Badgers overcome the economic barriers of paying for college through a combination of grants, scholarships, work study, and loans. These programs, students must be Pell eligible to be admitted into these programs, and we are committed to meeting a student's full financial need, which is defined as cost of attendance minus whatever the expected family contribution off of CSS profile and FAFSA. Whatever that remaining amount is what Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner guarantees to meet for up to 4 years, 4 consecutive years, or 2 consecutive years if you are a transfer student. Let's talk now about understanding your cost of attendance. Regardless of what school you attend, maybe you're on today's call and you're undecided and you're deciding between, let's say, UW-Madison and another school. These elements of the cost of attendance are important to understand at whatever school you decide to go to. We will break down tuition and fees, books and supplies, housing and food, transportation, and then personal expenses, which all make up the cost of attendance. Once you look at the cost of attendance, it's important to keep in mind, what are my direct costs? Like, what do I owe the university versus what's part of the cost of attendance, but I don't directly owe those to the university. So direct costs are going to be tuition and fees. That's $64.84 for the fall semester and $64.84 for the spring semester if you are a Wisconsin resident. If you are in Minnesota, that would be $93.82 per semester. And if you are a non-resident of the state of Wisconsin and not Minnesota, then it's at $22,977 per semester. So tuition and fees is what I would owe the university, along with, if I live on campus in the university housing, my housing and my meal plan is what I would owe the university. The estimate that we put is $74.97 per semester, but even that estimate can vary depending on if I'm living in a single versus I'm living in a quad, if I have a Go 10 meal plan versus I have the Go Unlimited. So each one of those is going to be a little bit different. So depending on what your actual costs are is what you will owe the university. Now, what are costs that are part of the cost of attendance, but I don't owe those directly to the university? Those include things like books and supplies, computer, transportation, and personal expenses. They're included in the overall cost of attendance. So when you're looking at that big number on the bottom per semester, that is how much is included in the cost, but not all of that is owed directly to the university. So just some things to keep in mind as you're looking at the cost and how to maybe cover the gap or use your financial aid to cover it. Understanding your financial aid offer is what we will look at next. So all of you should have received by now a financial aid offer. At the very top, it'll tell you the aid year that it's for. It will also have your student's name, your campus ID, the program that you are part of, the date that it was from. This isn't actual copy of a student in the program, their financial aid offer, which is why we blocked out their name and blocked out their campus ID number. So this student, I can tell from their direct cost, is a Wisconsin resident because their tuition is at $64.84, and then all the other costs that we just talked about. Following after the cost will be their estimated financial aid offer, which will first talk about grants and scholarships. So any grants or scholarships will be up front. The nice thing about these is you don't have to accept them or do anything else for them to be dispersed. They are automatically accepted on behalf of the student. The thing that comes next following that, the section that comes next, is going to be loans. Any loans a student must accept or decline if they don't want the loans. And then along with accepting or declining, they will have to go to studentaid.gov and complete what's called a master promissory note and entrance counseling. We'll have a slide on that coming up. But again, grants automatically accepted, loans, student must accept them if they are interested in helping use those to cover their estimated bill. The next section will be on estimated bill, but again, I do encourage students to make sure they understand tuition and fees is that direct cost, and then if they live on campus, where they live and what meal plan they have will be their actual bill that they will have. So let's look at 3 examples of 3 students, and these are 3 actual students that are coming to UW. One is a Bucky's Pell Pathway, so they're a Wisconsin resident. The next one is a Minnesota Banner student, and the last one is a Banner student, non-resident student. This first student, let's call them student A, is getting $12,360 in grants and scholarships. Their tuition, we rounded up, $6,500. Their remaining aid is about $58.60. This remaining aid they can use to help pay towards their housing and their meal plan if they're living on campus, and if they're living off campus, it will be directly refunded to them. They can use that refund to pay for off-campus housing, such as an apartment. Student B, they are, again, Minnesota Banner. They're getting $4,198. Their tuition as a Minnesota student is $9,400. Instead of remaining aid, they're going to have a remaining balance of $5,202. This student B is responsible for that remaining balance. They can use loans, be the loans they were offered, direct loans, or they can get additional private or Parent Plus loans. We'll talk about those options in a minute. And then student C, Banner, fully non-resident, they received $21,252 in financial aid. Their tuition and fees, we remember, is around $23,000. This student is going to also have a remaining balance of $1,748 each semester. Again, if a student has a remaining balance, they will need to either out of pocket or personal savings, or accept a loan or look into additional loans to cover their remaining costs. Types of financial aid, kind of just breaking this down: self-help aid such as loans and work study, and then gift aid such as scholarships and grants. We'll talk about all of those. Grants and scholarships, I like to tell students there are no 2 prettier words in all of English than free money, and this is what grants and scholarships are: free money that the student can use towards their educational expenses to help cover those expenses. Those can be in the form of federal, state, institutional, or private. And then there's scholarships. Making sure students apply to scholarships is so important, which is why we have a list of nationally trusted search sites that we encourage all students, not just as incoming students, but continuously each year, making sure that they apply to scholarships. At UW-Madison, our office awards need-based financial aid. That need-based financial aid is what you've already received. Any type of merit aid or scholarships are going to either come externally from some other source, or they're going to come from the school or college that the student is attending. So for example, I know that Letters in Science has already dispersed their scholarships. If you did not hear from them that you are a scholarship recipient, that means you didn't get the scholarship from them. Again, our office does not oversee those scholarships. It is the school and college that the student is attending. So any questions should go towards that school or college. And many scholarship places, many schools and colleges have already dispersed those scholarships. So those who are getting it have been notified. If you weren't notified, it probably means you're not getting it. But again, any questions can be directed to the school and college your student is attending. Make sure that if your student is getting some external non-UW-Madison scholarships, that they report those scholarships on their student center under the financial aid tile. It is super important that students always report external scholarships to avoid their financial aid having to be adjusted after the fact, which could mean a balance on their account. All right, so we talked about grants, we talked about scholarships. Let's talk about loans and work, because oftentimes students have a gap and they do need to help cover their expenses with loans or work. We'll talk first about loans, and then we'll go into employment. All students are eligible by completing the FAFSA to direct loans. It's typically a combination of subsidized if they have financial need and unsubsidized. The subsidized just meaning that it is interest free while the student is in school, and unsubsidized just means that interest is accruing on that loan from disbursement until that loan is paid back. There is also a 6-month grace period before repayment begins on either of these loans, and that's typically 6 months after they're done with school, or if at any time they drop below half time, which is 6 or more credits. Annual loan limits for students is $5,500 their first year, $6,500 their second year, and $7,500 their third and fourth year. These maximum loan limits are typically split between fall and spring. The current interest rate for these loans is 6.39%. It is a fixed rate, and there's also an origination fee of 1.057%. That means if a student is borrowing about $1,000, around $10 comes off the top of the loan before that loan disperses to the student. As I shared earlier, if a student is interested in receiving the loan that they were offered, they must accept it, and they must also go to studentaid.gov and complete what's called a master promissory note and entrance counseling. Even if the student accepts the loan, it will not disperse unless these steps have been taken. It's important that if you know I will have a balance after my financial aid has dispersed, make sure you do all of the steps needed so that you can avoid getting a hold on your account or a late fee. And if you need additional loans beyond the direct loans that the student's been offered, make sure that if you have questions to have a conversation with us, reaching out either by email or connecting with us. So let's say you do need additional loans beyond direct loans. 2 options we will talk about now: Parent Plus loan and private student loans. Parent Plus loan, as the name of the loan implies, is in the parent's name. These are federal loan options that the parent can get by going to studentaid.gov. Very similar to an unsubsidized loan in that interest accrues on this loan from disbursement to repayment, in that it has a fixed rate of an interest rate and also an origination fee. The origination fee and the interest rate are higher though, so it's important to keep that in mind. Private student loans, these would be from a bank or credit union. On our website, we have an online comparison tool called Fast Choice, where you can compare different lenders, and you can also apply right from the site if you're interested in that private loan. Some changes that are new to keep in mind, especially if you've already previously for another student have borrowed Parent Plus loan. New borrowers on July 1st, 2026 will have an annual loan limit of $20,000 per dependent student. And this is, again, in that year, with an aggregate lifetime loan limit of $65,000 per dependent student. If you are a legacy borrower, you can continue to borrow what you previously borrowed. Employment, all students who are part of Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner have been offered federal work study. So there's a $5,000 allocation of federal work study as part of your financial aid award. What does this mean? Do I have to get a job? No, but you have the opportunity to get a job if you decide to. And if you do, you would just go to studentjobs.wis.edu and look for an employment opportunity there. If you decide to look, a good time to start looking is May or June. If you see nothing that remotely interests you, check again the next day or the following day. This site is updated daily. There are so many different opportunities for employment, and there's so many reasons why it is beneficial for a student to have a campus job. Not only can they help cover some of their personal expenses, but they can also meet students outside of the dorms and outside of the classes. Having employment often also helps students manage their time. So there are many benefits to having a campus job. Again, if a student works that campus job, they get paid every other week, and with the money that they earn, it gets directly deposited into their account, and they can pay for their personal expenses that they have. Again, working is not mandatory, it's not obligated, but we do highly recommend it. Let's say I don't want to take out additional scholarship loans to help pay my balance. Is there something else I can do to help cover my balance? There is. It's called the Badger Pay, and it's through the bursar's office. You would have to enroll. You enroll each semester. each semester it's $50 to enroll, and then they just break up your balance into 3 separate payments for the semester. And then again, you can do it again the following semester if it's helpful. Now we know way back when you completed FAFSA and completed CSS profile, it used income information for 2024. We know that life can happen in an instance, and we know that things can change from one year to the next. If your family has experienced a drastic decrease in income, say because of job loss or job change or high medical expenses or a parent's divorce or separation, or maybe there's been a death in the family, then we can potentially reevaluate your financial aid. There would have to be a very big change for that. We cannot change your financial aid offer because another school is offering you more money or because we just can't cover the cost on ourselves. It has to be based on there's been a drastic change in the family's situation. And if there has been, there is a form, again, called special circumstance form. You can find it right on our website. You would fill it out with the student's name, campus ID number, the change, let's say it was job loss, and then just a brief statement of what's going on. And then we will request documentation from you. Typically that documentation is updated taxes. So if it was 2025 taxes, we would need a copy of that 2025 tax to show that change that has happened. If the change happened recently, let's say it happened in 2026, we would typically ask you to wait 3 to 6 months, and at best, once we have your new taxes for that year, so that we can update any financial aid or consider an update to the financial aid. Unusual circumstance, this is typically most students will need parent information under the age of 24, regardless of if they file their own taxes and you don't claim them anymore, or you just can't afford to help pay for their attending college. Even if both of those are the case, most students under the age of 24 still need parent information on their FAFSA. The rare exceptions to those are typically if the student is married, or the student has a child that they provide more than half of their support to, or the student is a veteran, or the student is in graduate school, or parents are both deceased. If none of those are the situation, then there are circumstances that can justify an institution from making an adjustment to a student's dependency status. Typically, the police or the court are involved in that because contact with the family can pose a risk to the student. If that is the situation, there is also a form on our website called an unusual circumstance. The student would fill this out and share more information and also provide documentation. So what are some next steps to keep in mind? There is a housing living community. That's an opportunity for all of our Bucky's Pell Pathway students and Banner students, if they are interested, to live in the Pathway Affinity Group. It is a housing part of Chadbourne Residential Hall, which is part of university housing. I believe it's the 7th floor, if I'm not mistaken, where they can live in community with other Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner students. If students are interested, when they sign up for housing, they would just select that as their option. Additionally, we encourage students to sign up for what's called e-refunding. It's through your student center under the financial account tile, and then e-refunding. This just means that any excess money, if you are getting more money than your overall bill, that remaining amount gets refunded directly to the student. So we want to make sure students sign up for that e-refunding. Also, we encourage you to check out 3 amazing programs on campus. One is called CEO. It's the Center for Educational Opportunities program. It's a TRIO program that provides lots of auxiliary advising support and different types of connection and networking with students. Check it out. You can just go to the university's webpage and look it up if you're interested and apply. There's also the First Generation Limited Income Office on our campus, which all of our students will qualify for any of the wealth of services they provide. We encourage you to check out their office. And last but not least, the Summer Collegiate Experience. It's an opportunity for students this summer to begin their college career by taking classes, living in the dorms, and living in community with other students. Again, it's called the Summer Collegiate Experience. We use lots of acronyms, so SCE, FIGLY, or CO are the 2 groups that you would just look up on the university's web page if you're interested in learning more or applying to any of these. If you have questions for our office, again, please reach out to us, finaid@finaid.wis.edu. You do not have to send each of us individually an email. We are part of the same office. So you can email finaid@finaid.wis.edu. If you have any questions, we're here to help you. We're here to support you with any questions you have. Some reminders, as I mentioned before, Bucky's Pell Pathway and Banner, we have a mandatory orientation. It's coming up August 27th. You all will have the opportunity to move in the day prior, August 26th. Some may be moving in even earlier. But August 27th, we do want you to mark your calendars for this mandatory orientation. It is just for students. And again, it is the only mandatory session we host. We also have monthly workshops, as I shared earlier. It's the first Thursday of each month where we will have tons of good information and lunch. Monthly newsletter we will email every first Wednesday of the month. Make sure you check those out because oftentimes there's such good information and students will email us a question and we're like, wait, that was in the email. So make sure not to miss those newsletters. Money Hour is the second Tuesday of each month. It's a time where we partner with UW Credit Union to talk about all things money, from budgeting your money to saving your money to making your money work for you. Check it out. Along with good information, we also provide a free delicious lunch. 4 years from the time they start, we will also be celebrating them in our graduation celebration, just another time to celebrate them, get free lunch. And then we connect students with campus resources all the time, so make sure that you attend our various sessions and also sign up for our Canvas course, which shares lots of important information. All right, how do I connect with you again? Our front desk, 608-262-3060, is the phone number you can call to schedule an appointment, to talk to an advisor, to talk with one of our students. We're open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you don't already, make sure you follow us on Instagram. If you have to email us, again, the email to reach us is finaid@finaid.wis.edu. Anybody on our team can help answer your questions. And if you're in person, stop by the 9th floor of 333 East Campus Mall. We are so thankful that you decided to join us today. And like I shared, we will leave plenty of time for questions. Thank you.
All right. So that was Jocelyn. Although she couldn't be here, she certainly is able to go ahead and deliver the amazing presentation she did. At this time, certainly we will take any questions, whether you want to put it in the chat and or go on mute, so we can be of assistance there. A couple questions coming in. Is there a link to the recording of this meeting? So not necessarily going to be a link available, but if you have any specific questions or parts of the presentation you want to view, certainly ask those. We can provide that to you. Is the orientation SOAR? So SOAR is separate. SOAR is tied to the university where you kind of come to sign up for classes, get to know the campus a bit more. So the orientation is separate where you would already have done your SOAR at that point. And then the orientation is coming onto campus to be able to, the orientation would be more overviewing a lot of our Promise program questions and information about our programs. There's a lot of questions coming in, so let's give us a second here. Another Carlos had his hand up, so go ahead and ask your question.
Well, sorry, I wrote my question, but when do we need to confirm the scholarship? Well, I have several questions, but one of them is that,
Yep, so
or
you
is it
can
automatic?
confirm as of May 1st. May 1st is the deadline.
Okay. Okay. Well, should I ask the other ones, or maybe you want to
Sure.
Go for me.
You can ask
go for
another
the
one.
questions
Go for it.
on the. Okay. Maybe this is not the right there, but the meals is all you can eat for the students on the meal plans?
So meal plans. So I'm gonna answer that question in relation to Lori's question as well. So Lori's question is, what meal plan is factored into the average cost listed on the FinAid offer? Um, so so it's the Go 10 is what's probably most equivalent to what's listed on your financial aid offer. Obviously, each student is different in terms of how often they want to eat at the dorm, in our residence halls. It serves the same food every single day, so it might get a little bit boring or whatnot, and people might not want to eat there all the time, right? So to each their own on their opinion on that, right? But in terms of choosing the right meal plan is up to you. The Go 10 means that you get 10 swipes a week to go and eat. It isn't all you can eat service. So one swipe is an all you can eat session. And then, but you only get 10 of those for the Go 10. The Go 14, again, you only get 14 for the week. Or we have the Go Unlimited, where it's an unlimited amount of swipes. Does that answer your question, Carlos?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. And the last question I have is the banner, is it is it got did it the banner scholarship, did it come from the university, or like say the letters and science college?
Banner is an institutional aid program, so that comes directly from our office, the Office of Student Financial Aid.
Okay. So it doesn't matter which
It doesn't
which
matter what
school you go
college or
into.
school you're in. Nope, it does not.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Emily, am I required to complete work study if it is listed on my financial aid form, or is the $500 removed if we don't complete it? Work study is optional. Obviously, it's something that we recommend students to participate in just because it provides structure to your college schedule. Also encourages you to meet people that aren't in your classrooms or in your dorms, but to kind of diversify your community. And so something that we would recommend, and it puts money in your pockets, right? Banner program taxed under parent or student? Is education expense and room and meals taxed differently? That is a really great question for a tax professional. We are not able to answer any or give advice on anything related to taxes. So definitely something you can ask your tax professional. There is free tax services locally in Madison. If you're from Madison, you can definitely search for those, but that would be definitely something we recommend. For the estimated cost of housing and dining, what is the basis as average? So we've averaged 14,994 for the full academic school year. So that includes both housing costs and a dining plan for the full academic school year. Would a Bucky Spell pathway cover a certificate as well as a major, or only credits for your major? That is a great question. So Bucky Spell pathway and Banner program, they are programs that are designed to meet your full financial need for 8 consecutive semesters. So if you bring in credits in, and you can fit in 2 majors and 3 certificates, by all means, do so, right? But your funding is promised for 8 consecutive semesters. If you need more time than 8 consecutive semesters, your funding will look drastically different because we are only promising this type of funding for the 8 consecutive semesters. How do you do the e-refund thing she mentioned? You can sign up for e-refund in your student center under the financial account tile. You probably won't be able to see it right now because the bursar's office hasn't issued you any type of bill or anything like that. So you probably won't be able to do that as of right now, but it should populate over the summer, more close to early August is what I would project.
So you have similar to Go 10, the basis of housing. Could you, for example, get a single room cover? So with the housing and meal section on your financial aid offer, right? Certainly it is an average estimate of the average dorm cost and meal plan. I think what would help is that I'll link again here the cost of the housing and meal plans that you can look at directly. It is only reflecting this year's 25-26. And so it's one of those situations where I think that you can take a look and see those prices, and then you can be able to insert that into understanding. Although this is the average estimate, between the meal plan and the housing costs you're choosing, what would the actual numbers be for you to take a look at? So that's what I would have you take a look at. It will break down things such as the one bedroom, or let's say you're doing a go for a team plan. Does funding change if your financial situation changes slightly from year to year? Certainly it can. If your financial, when you each year, you want to make sure you complete the FAFSA, right? And so if the FAFSA itself reflects a different financial need for you, then therefore your financial help us to understand what is your financial need that we can provide in financial aid. If your financial situation does change, then it could potentially change what you're looking to be offered for that year. And so it is important to fill out the FAFSA in order to understand what those changes will look like. I know there's been a few questions here where we're just talking more briefly about special circumstances. So certainly, I would say I'll link here again our special circumstance link here so that folks can take a look and review. Those would be helpful. Again, making sure you're providing your circumstances and providing any documentation along that way so that our team is able to review and get that submitted to us. All right, trying to keep up here. Let's see. I'm gonna go back real quick. This question is about Mercer J. Lee Scholarship and affecting financial aid. If you are expected to receive a scholarship from the university, make sure that you do check your Wish Hub at UW-Madison portal. Make sure you accept it so that way we can know that it is being received and coming on its way over. Can it impact your financial aid? It depends, but certainly it could. We do just have to make sure you accept it so that it can come over to our team in order for us to make any necessary adjustments should it impact your financial aid. If you're looking to see an update to your financial aid after you've accepted it, know that you would want to check your student center at UW-Madison to see if there's has been any updates to the financial aid in the student center. Can I obtain a job during May, June, from our 10 to August? It's definitely going to be up to the student job center. And so if you see a job that you like and you want to apply to it, and they want to go ahead and give you an interview, and they like you, and you're coming you just want to make sure you are coming as a student here. But certainly that is up to the employer. So I would say if you see a job you like, apply for it. Then you can certainly follow up with the employer with that question. Can you choose a dorm or you limited to certain housing? You can totally choose the dorm that you want to live in. Again, it's totally up to you. I think what's important is noting the cost. Know that if you're choosing to also live, let's say, in a learning community, and so you'll see things like a greenhouse or business connect, anything that has an additional learning community floor, just know that that does have an extra fee. So you'll want to be prepared to cover those fees in addition to the housing cost. Let's see here. When is SOAR? Usually during the summer if you're out of state. So SOAR, once you've officially accepted and you're coming to UW-Madison, there should be an opportunity for you to sign up for when SOAR is. So that would be a great question. But you'd want to first make sure you are accepting and coming to Madison, and then SOAR will be provided for you to sign up during times in the summer for you to come sign up for classes, get ready for the school year. If you're coming out of state and have to fly back home, return back to campus. So you would go to SOAR, you come here, fly, leave after, right? And then when you officially move into campus, that's typically when then at that time, the orientation will be around that time. Most students should have been moved in at that point for the dorms. And so then at that time, you go to the orientation, you'll be on campus. All right, trying to capture anything else. If I live, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go for it.
So, if I get like a outside scholarship, like let's say through my high school or through an organization by here, but it's less than what I owe to the school. Let's say it's like 2,000 and I owe, let's say like 15,000. Would that like affect, like would my new remaining balance out of like my pocket be 13,000, or would it affect my financial aid and make it less from Madison?
So if you're receiving a scholarship from, let's say, your high school, my first step would say certainly making sure you're reporting that, and so that we can make room to prepare to receive it. The way when the bill comes out in August, right? Financial aid will always go to first apply to whatever is on the balance. And so if you've reported that scholarship and we have it here, all of that scholarship from your high school plus any financial aid will go to apply to the balance first. And so theoretically, assuming that it doesn't impact any other financial aid, it should help to bring your balance down, right? So hopefully that answers your question. You want to make sure that you report it so we can add it to your financial aid and make sure we make any adjustments necessary. And then when the bill comes out, there will be about 10 days before classes start. It's when the financial aid will disperse to your bill. And so it will try to bring that down as much as it can. So the hope is that it should bring your balance down, or it should be less that you have to pay out of pocket for. Good question.
Okay. And when is the cutoff for reporting outside scholarships?
I would say the sooner the better. It's really ideal. You want to try to report it as soon as you can when you do know that you'll be expecting it. Certainly, that would be the ideal case. I mean, if you report it later, just know that if you report it later, we have to make any adjustments, that might result in a balance. And the reason why is because essentially the financial aid you currently have, we're assuming there's nothing else coming. And so if you don't report it, when it does report in later, in order to make room for your scholarship, we may have to lose some of our aid to make room for it. And so the sooner you report it, the better. Let's say you report it and it never comes, or it comes really, really late. And at least it's been reported so we can expect to make room for it. If things were to change, you can let us know and say, although I expected to report this and it's not going to come for one reason or the other, but certainly the sooner you can, the better. How is money allocated if a student doesn't live in the dorms? So if you don't live in the dorms, right? So your financial aid will go to your bill first, right? On your bill will be at least 4 items if applicable to you: tuition, fees, housing, meaning living in the dorms, and a meal plan. If you're not living in housing, you don't have a meal plan, the only thing should be left on your bill is tuition and fees. And so if your financial aid, when it goes to apply to your bill, if it pays your bill to 0 and there's still remaining money left over, that's considered a financial aid refund. And then you would use that refund to pay for educational expenses like living in your apartment, paying for any meals, electricity, etc. That's what I would encourage. If you are a student who is not going to be living in the dorms, make sure you sign up for e-refund. So that way, in the event in which you have any refunds that come after, they will go directly to your bank account so you can use that to pay for your rent or books or anything like that. All right. Okay, is the estimated remaining financial bill what I owe to UW-Madison out of pocket? So yes, if you're seeing the estimated remaining financial bill on the bottom, you want to make sure you take a look, and it shows direct costs, and then it'll show grants and scholarships after applied. Whatever the number is at the bottom there, that will represent how much is the remaining out of pocket that you're going to prepare for. Okay. Do you know which dorms have additional costs? Yep. Again, I'll link here again the housing website, and it'll break down here on this website. It will show both all the costs, and then when you click on the specific learning community, it will show there more about the information and then the cost itself. From my understanding, I'm not sure if it varies, but what I'm seeing here is that there's certain floors is looking at about $250. What if I accept the message you leave, but I get a refund for the amount I don't use? So again, financial aid all comes as, at UW-Madison, financial aid, any scholarship all stay as considered as financial aid. Financial aid always goes to apply to your bill 10 days before classes start. So whether it's private scholarships, campus scholarships, grants from the financial aid program, all of that is just one big lump sum that then goes to apply to the school bill. If that school bill is paid to 0 and there's still money left over, then yes, you would receive a financial aid refund. If I study for a summer, will the Banner grant also apply? So each summer is unique on its own. In the past, there has not been enough financial aid that will cover your full cost for a 3-credit class. I would say is that, as you come here, and if summer is something you're looking to do, make sure you prepare to pay for any out-of-pocket costs for summer classes. Certainly that doesn't mean you're not going to get financial aid. You could get some financial aid, but certainly it will not be enough to cover a 3-credit class. There will be a scholarship that's available for students closer to that time and something that they can apply to that can assist in hoping to cover some of that gap. All right. Can I deposit e-refund? Say, yep. So e-refund is totally up to you. When you sign up as a student, you choose which bank account, whether it's credit union, whether it's a bank, whichever it is, as long as it's something that can be accepted, certainly you can go to any account If you have any issues specifically about your bank account, I would say you can check with the bursar's office. But certainly, I would have you first check and go over to e-refund, look at the forms and steps, try attempting to add your bank account information, and if it works, I would say it should be fine. And if you're having issues there, the bursar's office would be a great place to get some support. Has the Mercedes scholarship been given out yet? So all students at this point, my understanding is that if you applied and been accepted, you should have received notification for that. If you applied through the Wish Hub at UW-Madison, you'll want to make sure you check the Wish Hub at UW-Madison to make sure if there's any other steps you need to do to either accept and or to get notification if you've been awarded it. How would internships factor into BBP when attending an internship or financial being a whole? Internships. So I think key to think about is that while you're a Bucket Power Pathway or Banner and you're on this financial aid program, it is consecutive, right? So really the only exception we would make for student if you're completing a co-op, and that has to be confirmed from your school and sent over to us so that we can know that you are on a co-op. That's the only condition that we would potentially extend one more semester. If you decide to take an internship, right, make sure you check in with us, because even though you have an internship, let's say for the fall term, if that's something that's not eligible to be extended, that still will count as one of your semesters used under Banner or Bucket Power Pathway. And so it's important to keep that in mind, that if you are doing an internship or taking a semester off, make sure you check in with us to make sure you understand what are my financial implications if I decide to take on this opportunity or take some time away. So keeping that in mind. Does financial aid cover or transfer sophomore when you live on campus? So again, as long as you apply for the FAFSA each year, you get a financial aid offer. If you're living off campus, same thing applies, right? The financial aid you have on your account will go directly to first pay down what it can for your bill. If your bill's paid to zero, anything remaining left over will be used, and you can use that to pay for other expenses like living off campus, apartments, meals, etc. All right. Are transportation expense scholarships used when like coming out of the country to visit home? So with transportation expense scholarship, to my understanding, I haven't seen any scholarships for transportation. Right, it's an expense that you want to consider for the cost of attendance, similar to books and supplies. Right, those are items that you want to consider preparing for. And so I'm not sure there's any scholarships per se that I've seen that directly assist with transportation expenses. If you have private scholarships that do that, certainly that is up to the private scholarship themselves. But if you are, let's say, if student needs to fly home or you need to fly in to visit, certainly it's one of those that you want to make sure you put any out-of-pocket costs for those. Does Bucky Power Pathway cover financial study abroad? So yeah, it would depend. As long as the study abroad program is an approved program through UW-Madison, and you're accepted, then depending on the program, in most cases, yes, it can apply to the study abroad cost. It will depend on the specific type of program, and so that's a great question. And if you're taking a look at a few of those programs, certainly at that time, reach out to us. I think that's important, so we can take a look and say, does this program apply can this program be covered with the financial aid you have, and how much? And then making sure that with anything you're doing, you're applying for scholarships for those programs. Okay, you said the money goes to the bills and anything left for concern, so bucket I'll send them out. So the way I would look at it is the financial aid you have for this upcoming year, right? Unless something has changed or you have a special circumstance, if there's nothing else, and your offer would be seen as set, right? So it's set for this academic year, right? So coming up for 26-27. In your sophomore year, junior year, you still need to apply for the FAFSA to make sure we can give you a financial aid offer. If you don't expect your family financial situation to change, you can expect similar financial aid, right? But if it does change drastically, you should prepare to see a different financial aid offer than you have in the previous year. Now, because you're in Bucket Power Pathway and because you're in the Banner program, our promise is to meet your full financial need as determined by the FAFSA each and every single year. Will my financial aid change from Banner to Bucky when I become a full? So that's a great question. I mean, you want to make sure that you confirm with the registrar's office if you have questions about residency. We can't really determine what changes that will look. But certainly, if your residency is Wisconsin and it's not reflected as such, make sure that's correct. If it is expected to change, make sure you reach out to the registrar's office to make sure you go through their process. And if that indeed does change your residency, then they will definitely let us know. We can be able to take a look at what your financial offer would be if it's different. Is there a copy of the slides that could be shared with us? I will have to reach to my team there. Certainly, we definitely know that folks do want the slides and questions. So we'll definitely make sure we confirm with our team here what can be sent out to you all. Definitely understand trying to maintain a lot of this information is a lot. All right. Okay. Since work study are paid out during the school year, how does money apply to tuition if my bill is due for earning those wages? So, yep. So if you are earning, let's say you find a work study job on campus and you're working that job, what happens is that money, right, from your work study, it will get pulled and you'll earn that as a regular paycheck, right? So let's say you find a job on campus, you're working in the dining halls. You work $10 an hour, you work 10 hours a week for $10 an hour, you get $100, right? That will be sent to you as just like a regular paycheck, just like you're working a regular job. Now, it's up to you if you want to go ahead and pay some of your tuition down, or if you want to use that to pay for other expenses like books and supplies. Does the work study amount of your $5,000 reduce your upfront costs? Not necessarily, right? It's there for you to earn, right? If you don't use your work study, it's no harm, no foul. So it's not that if you don't accept it or use it, you have to pay that back. It's not that if you exhaust it all, will it reduce the cost. It's more so it's there for you to earn and work a job, and the paycheck that you receive from that job, you can use to pay for tuition and or anything else you would like. So it's not necessarily going to reduce because it does not disperse or get applied to your account unless you're working a work study job. And so you'll see on your financial aid offer, you'll see a section that breaks down all your grants and scholarships, but you'll see that work study isn't necessarily right there. You'll see that later on in the form, you'll see that work study is being applied in terms of work study is being described on how it will be applied. So just keep that in mind. So students must arrive before August 27th, class starts September 2nd. So I think the key is that if your student is intending to come to Madison, one, make sure you confirm your enrollment. And the second thing is you want to make sure you confirm when is your move-in date. And so UW Housing will give each student their dorm and their move-in date. And so whenever the move-in date is, that's when then you can begin to move into campus. Our orientation is August 27th, so our hope and our understanding is that most students who are in our program should be able to already move in before that orientation date. And then with classes starting September 2nd, yes, that will be correct.
CC, I'm not sure where you are in the chat, so I'm just answering questions. But if you want to ask questions and then have me answer them, feel free to do so.
Sounds good. Yep, just pushing through. Okay, which dorms have additional costs? Again, I know I keep referring to the web link, but certainly the web link does break down exactly the cost per semester and per academic year, and it does break down for each learning community different fees. So it's certainly encouraging you to take a look at those. So how do we tell you we have outside scholarships and basically we won't, as long as we don't have both, we won't have any student debt. So how do we tell you with outside scholarships? So again, that is reporting these scholarships. So let me just pull up here. Either A, you would want to report your scholarship. So you can do that in your student center to report your scholarship. And then if your private scholarship organization, if they're saying, we need to send the information to your school, what information do you have? I'm going to drop that here as well. And so that way, if folks have private scholarship organizations who are trying to send a scholarship to us, this is where you will have. So 1 second here. Okay. And then as long as we don't go over the set amount, we don't have. So in terms of student debt, right? I mean, really, if you're looking at student debt, you want to take a look at how much you have in financial aid and how much scholarship you have. I mean, how you would go into a student that would be either A, having borrowed federal student loans, and so that would be, loans when you get to pay back, and or if you're owing out of pocket any remaining amount, that's what you have to pay out of pocket, right? So when it comes to student debt, student debt typically is tied to loan borrowing or having to borrow loans and then pay those back. And so as long as I think scholarships will always benefit you more than it will hurt you. So certainly encouraging to apply for scholarships, reporting them, so that we can be able to make sure that we can adjust and make sure it fits all of your costs of attendance. Right. These are a lot of great questions here, trying to capture. For special circumstance, how big of a job? So it's really case by case. So it's not that there's like a certain threshold where, by dropping your income by X amount, you'll get more. The best ways that you want to make sure you submit your special circumstance. We view a case by case. So every single situation is unique to its own and provide the documentation. And so the best way, if you have a circumstance you want to be reviewed, then you want to make sure you complete a special circumstance form, provide the documentation, get the email to us so we can review it and get back to whether or not if that would warrant any changes in your financial aid offer. Yeah. All right, we're looking at about 5 minutes left in tonight's evening. These are about a lot of great questions. Certainly know that this isn't the last time. If you all do have questions, you can certainly email us, give us a call. This is just make sure we're touching base with a lot of our family students who are in our Promise program. Again, we are open 9 to 4 Central Standard Time. Our number is 608-262-3060, and you can always email us or finding us by Googling UW-Madison Financial Aid. We will be available to support along the way. All right, special circumstance. All right, 1 second here. All right. So I've listed here, and then you want to go to the special circumstance section. Keep in mind that special circumstance, right, truly is to assess and understand the student offending's full financial situation, right? And so keeping that in mind, it's not more so, we can't afford to pay the amount, we're looking to see the additional, or let's say, other schools are providing us additional financial aid. Would you match that? Truly, it will break down kind of some of the circumstances there. Make sure you provide documentation. Does a student call or the parent call? So I would say it's always helpful to make sure the student is present as much as they can, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure the students are also empowered and equipped to knowing what next steps would be necessary. Certainly the parent can call, but we may always want to confirm if the student is there to give consent to talk about their financial information. All right. Since housing estimates are cost, which dorm hall and room type is in mind when estimated? So again, it's going to be your average meal plan. So looking at about the Go 10, Go 14, and then the average housing cost. Truly, I think the most important part for you as you think about which dorm, which housing, looking at the billing and rates, since you all are ranking and choosing which dorm you want to be in, pulling that exact number from the billing and rates website, right? And saying, okay, they're estimating that this is my housing and meals, right? But because everybody has a choice in ranking and when they'll be selected into which dorm and which meal plan, go ahead and look at the exact amount for the housing and the exact amount for the meal plan, and then you insert that number into that line. This is housing and meals. Because it's only an average estimate, that means that things can either be more or less things. So you'll want to make sure you do that on your own to make sure you have a clear understanding. So perhaps the ones that you're trying to look at, will that fit within the estimate? Is there a rule if you don't take out federal loans, you may not be able to perform out in subsequent? So at the current moment, right? If you don't take it for next year, right? If you're not taking any of your federal loans, the amount that you can borrow each year is based off of your student standing, right? So if you come in and you consider a first-year student, that is the amount you can borrow, which is $5,500. If you're sophomore year, you meet as a sophomore standing, then it would be $6,500, and then junior, senior, $7,500. So the amount you can borrow each year is dependent on your student standing status, right? If you don't borrow your federal loans, doesn't mean you can't borrow any of the next year. Certainly not at all. You certainly each year is its own financial aid year. So if you like to borrow one year, not the other, that's totally up to you. For special circumstances, you want to make sure we can only look at information for this upcoming year, so 26, 27. So we can't look and say in the year 2035, I think, or in the year 2030 or my senior year, we can only look at information relevant to either what has put on for the FAFSA for 2020, for 20, sorry. You want to look at the information that is either reflecting for your 26, 27, right? And so if you're looking to do a special circumstance, it would be for the 26, 27 aid year. That will be the year that you would want to put it if you're incoming freshman. But if a student isn't in a dorm, how can we know the amount? How can we know what the amount dispersed will be? They aren't choosing a dorm. Correct. And this is why the financial aid offer is an estimated financial aid offer, right? Tuition and fees aren't even updated until the midsummer, right? A lot of the information you're seeing is an estimated financial aid offer, right? Even 26, 27 housing in dorms, those are also not updated until the midsummer, right? But are the hope is that these are meant for you to guide and prepare you for what is to come, right? Certainly we understand how do we know how much is going to be dispersed if they don't even have the full price. Again, that's why it's an estimated financial aid offer. And so we certainly encourage students to do the best you can to look at the billing rates and housing to get a sense of how much those dorms or meal plans might cost in order to begin to estimate, okay, what are we looking at in terms of what will be covered or not covered or what's still going to be out of pocket cost. What happens is the new law bringing power to job. So certainly we understand there's a lot of changing federal regulations, whether it's federal loans or Pell Grants. So what I would encourage and say is that as we continue to receive more information about things that changes about federal funding, we will certainly let you all know. At this time, we are able to provide what we do know up to this point. And so certainly if there's things to change, we will let you all know. All right, we are at 7 o'clock here, so we will be wrapping up soon here. Just taking a look at a few more questions we have here. Some scholarships. Correct. So if you do get a large bump in income, right, that will probably be reflected in the later years' taxes, and then that will be something that would be reflected in later FAFSAs or financial aid offers because the FAFSA will ask for that tax equation for 2026 at a later time. Can you use the Barron Scholarship to buy a computer? And so if you receive a financial aid refund after your financial has applied to your bill, if there's any excess money left over, and that's an expense that you need for education, certainly it's something you can choose to buy along with books, supplies, or anything else that will be under the cost for attendance. All right, how are we looking on questions, Molly Jo? You've been nailing a lot of them.
There's still a lot more, but
Okay.
I got to most of them, kind
Yep,
of.
I'm seeing that.
I do see a lot of questions about housing. So again, if your student isn't living in the dorms, then you won't have that housing bill or the dining plan. So the excess funds after tuition is paid will be refunded to the student. We recommend students enroll in e-refund so that money can go directly to your bank account, and then it is that student's responsibility to use that lump sum of financial aid to budget for their monthly expenses, which would be housing, food, books and supplies, and all the other things that they are going to be needing. So definitely wanting to make sure that so you get aid no matter if you live on campus or off campus. Parents, if you are calling our office on behalf of your student, we just encourage you to really include your student into the conversation, as this is their journey, this is their college education, and they should definitely be in the know and what is expected of them and what what plan are they going to take, right? So it's just something we definitely recommend when contacting our office. Come the first day of classes, your student will be protected under FERPA, and you won't be able to we won't be able to release any information to anybody but the student. So definitely working with your student is going to be your best option. But honestly, that is all that we have time for. If you do have questions that we did not cover tonight, please feel free to email us. Email us at finaid@finaid.wis.edu. We'd be happy to answer your questions via email. Or if you don't want to email us and you'd rather have a conversation with us, we will definitely be accepting phone calls and questions Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Except for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have an all-team staff meeting, so our office is closed to the public. But definitely we are still answering emails tomorrow. We have a large student staff that will be answering emails, so you can definitely get your emails answered tomorrow. But definitely give us a call Wednesday and beyond, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. So have a good rest of your evening and have a good night.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.